Good morning. This is Iriana. I'm here with you again, and this is part 5 of Remembering Who We Are. And of course, what's a nice Jewish girl doing in a place like this? And it's been, it looks like the last segment was on October 7th, and now it's October 23rd. So that's more than 2 weeks. And I wondered why I hadn't done another session. And today I realized it was because I needed to go into a bit more challenging aspects of what happened in the story of my life, and so I'm going to do the best I can with that. And I'm at the point now where I wanted to talk about when I sort of was jarred out of the fairy tale. Not that my life was a fairy tale at all, but in my mind, I lived in a fairy tale. And then, of course, all the reading that I mentioned, the books that I read, all the fiction and all the movies that I saw, and all the romantic images I had in my mind of what life was, came to a halting stop. That's all I can say. And what happened is that my grandmother, who lived in the house nearby, as I mentioned before, within walking distance from the apartment I lived in with my parents, she got very ill. She had a form of cancer, and it was very severe, and we had to move in to the house because my mother needed to take care of her. And so we did that, and it was very tense. And to be honest, I don't remember a lot of it. I remember that I was, I guess, before 10, because my brother was born when I was 10, and I don't think we were living in the apartment anymore. Again, my memory is very fragmented, obviously, because it was a very intense time. So I can only tell you what I remember right now. And we moved in, and I do think that before my brother was even born, and I'm not sure if it was before or after, my grandmother had to go and live in my aunt's house in Trenton, New Jersey, which was about 2 hours away, because my mother couldn't handle everything. And again, I don't know if it was before my brother was born or after. I'm going to have to ask him. Maybe he'll know, because he's the only one alive to ask. Everyone else is in my mother's family is gone. They all passed over. So at any rate, we moved into my grandmother's house, and it's all a blur. I was 10. I guess I was still in grammar school, although I don't remember much of that. And my brother was born, and that part I remember. I remember him being born, and I do remember his crib, and I guess I think he slept in my parents' room, and I had my own room. And my grandmother, as I said, was gone. So my parents, yeah, that's the only memory I have, is of my parents being in my grandmother's room and my grandfather's room. And so I don't know where we slept when we moved in there. I have no idea, because I think there was only 2 bedrooms. Maybe there were more. I don't remember. Again, it's interesting how we block things. So as I said, when my grandmother passed away, we must have gone to my aunt's house, of course, and went through all that process, and I don't remember any of it. And then the next thing I remember is my mother being very, very unhappy. And I do believe that I think a couple of years ago, when my aunt was still alive, we were talking, and I think my mother really did have a nervous breakdown to some degree. I don't know for sure. And then my grandfather died 9 months later, but he left. He went to Florida, and because there was opportunity for him to work in the hotels, and he didn't want to be home anymore in that house where I guess my grandmother died, although she didn't die in that house. And when he went to Florida, he remarried, which my mother and her sisters did not know until, I believe, after he died. He died 9 months after my grandmother. He had a heart attack. And I don't know how my mother found out. I think one of the children of the woman he was married to contacted them. And I don't know if they even went to his funeral. I don't remember. I really didn't realize I had this many blocks in my memory until I started sharing this with you. And anyway, then some of his things came back to our house, his trumpet and a few other things. And my mother really went to pieces. And we couldn't live in that house anymore, so we moved to Bayside, Queens, which was on the borderline of Bayside and Whitestone. And by then I think I was 12. And again, I have memory lapses, obviously. And I started in a school that you went up to 8th grade and you graduated. So I think I went to 7th and 8th grade there. And I think I was 12. I must have been. And because in Brooklyn I was in junior high. And so I had to have been at almost 12 to be in junior high. I may have been 11 and then 12 when we moved. And I went to junior high, and so I graduated. I passed from my grammar school in 6th grade and went to this junior high in Brooklyn for a short period. I don't know how long. And all I did was obsess about boys and write notes to my girlfriends about boys. And I didn't do well in school at all in 7th grade in junior high. I was too busy trying to escape all the chaos at home and obsessed about boys. That's all I remember. And then we moved to Queens, and I decided I wanted to be a good student again. So I kind of used these two friends as role models. They were the best students in the class. I even changed my handwriting because theirs was pretty and mine wasn't. And that was weird. I don't know why I did that, but I wanted to be just like them, and I became this student again. And I took my brother with me wherever I went because at least every day after school I would go to the sweet shop in the luncheonette or wherever we all hung out. And my brother started copying. He was already 2 if I was 12, and he was able to talk, and he would copy what the cursing that the boys did, which was kind of funny, but my mother was not happy. So we went home, and she fed him and took care of him physically, but I did take him every day that I did go there because she was a mess. I remember her just being very, very depressed. And my brother and I shared a pull-out bed. I don't know exactly why. We had our own room, and why we didn't have a bed, I don't know. But we had a pull-out sofa bed, and I would talk to him every night, and he would fall asleep, and I would just go on and on and on about how unhappy I was, and how I don't even know. It's all a blur, to be honest. I can't even remember. And I did do well in school, and the 8th grade graduation did come up, and we had to make our own dresses in sewing class. That was just one of our parts of school, either cooking or sewing. And I guess I don't know why I chose sewing. I think I did cooking too. I don't remember. And I graduated, and I had to make this dress. And I didn't like sewing machines at all. I don't like mechanical objects. I don't know how I do anything on the computer, but I do. And I'm on my iPad right now, and that's easy. But I don't, technology is not my thing. And women of my generation, it's just not natural for us. And we've all adapted, those of us who do want to be like on Facebook and have websites. And I actually have designed my own websites until recently, because the technology has gotten to a point where well, if you want to be on the internet, you have to have a website that's professional. So I have my helper, Will, and he's great. And if anybody would like his information, please let me know. And then okay, so I'm going back to graduation and my sewing machine issue, and I sewed the dress on the sewing machine, but the needle kept breaking, and I was a mess. So I guess the night before or 2 nights before my graduation, my mother had to finish sewing my dress by hand because we didn't have a sewing machine at home. Unfortunately, she was a good seamstress, and so I actually had a dress to wear, thank God. And there's pictures of me with the two girls that I mentioned. One was Brenda and one was Norma, and they were, we looked happy. I looked happy, and my grandmother came, my father's mother came to the graduation. Oh no, that was, see, I'm confused again. But I remember graduating in that dress. So she must have come. And there was a picture of myself and her. And then we moved again. We only lived in Queens for a year, and then we moved to Trenton, New Jersey, and that's was a whole other. That's I went into ninth grade. I went to a junior high again to finish, and we moved there not at the beginning of the year. I remember that because I had to choose. I had to take Latin, and I couldn't. It was too late to start Latin, so I took typing instead, even though I had an academic curriculum. So typing was just an option, just to be able to graduate from that school. So this is going longer than I expected. So I'm going to stop, but I will say I did go to ninth grade, and we moved to a house. It was an attached house in Trenton, New Jersey, and the junior high was only literally down the end of that street. It was a dead end street, and the junior high was down there. So I walked to school. It was really easy. And every day when I walked to school, there was a girl who was a year behind me, and for some reason we walked together, and she would come to get me, I guess. I don't know why. And my mother would hang out the window yelling at me at how I didn't do this, that, or the other thing. It was kind of a nightmare, I have to say. And that's all I remember. So I guess it's a good time to stop because, of course, then I went to high school, and I did babysit during the years that I was in that junior high. I did start babysitting for the neighbors' children, and made a little extra money, and I remember that. And it was a nice house. My brother and I each had our own room, and we actually had beds. We did, and it was a 2-story house, and it was brand new, and it was very nice. And I remember my father watching TV. By then, there were more shows, of course, because by the time that must have graduated from there when I was 13, and that meant there was TV around for 5 years by then. So there were more shows, and I remember my father watching shows and laughing, and my mother watching some of them with him, but not as many as he watched. So I'm going to go now because this is a very intense time, and I don't really know where I want to focus after that. So thank you very much, and I will be back again.